also tapping into our roots, which is Region 6 wrestling. And so we've had a murderer's row of Region 6, old school Region 6 coaches, shore conference coaches. And yeah, we are excited to talk to you about all that you got going on, about the program, about the history. Like I said, I mentioned my nemesis in high school was one Miguel Ramos, so I'm sure we'll get into that. But we're excited to have you with us this evening.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, howdy and aloha. We are here, you are there, and you are now rocking with the best. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Airey Bros Radio. Tonight, we're going belly to belly with Long Branch High School's own Billy George. But before we get going, you all know the drill. Make sure you hammer that like button and are subscribed on YouTube. Drop a comment. Every view, review, and share helps us grow and give back to the sports we love. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, let's not forget while we're here to shine a light on the programs, people, coaches, and stories we wish we had access to growing up. If you or someone you know is chasing their dreams, cross-country wrestling, or track and field, share this episode with them. On to tonight's guest. Our guest tonight is Billy George. He is Long Branch through and through. His dad is a former head wrestling coach, as is his uncle. Billy was wearing a Green Wave singlet before he could walk. He's a two-time NHSCA national champion and a New Jersey state medalist. In college, he wrestled at Cornell University, where he was a starter on one of the nation's top teams. After college, he started coaching at Rumson Fairhaven, helping athletes go on to compete at the next level in college. Eventually, he came home to carry on the family tradition as a head coach at Long Branch, where he has led the Green Wave to 2022-2023 division champs, 2023-2024 top 10 finish in the Shore Conference Tournament, and a 2024-2025 Central Jersey Group 4 Sectional Championship. Without further ado, it is an honor and pleasure to have you joining us this evening. We do greatly appreciate your time. Billy George, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor to have you on. Before we get too far into it, anything you would like to plug or promote, anywhere you want us to send the Shore Conference wrestling fans to follow the Green Wave, the floor is yours.
I would be remiss if I didn't say Wave Wrestling NJ on Instagram. That's our account. Yeah, throw us a follow. I love to do motivational stuff. I love to do technique stuff. Getting it out to the Long Branch kids, but as a coach and ambassador of the sport, to whoever follows.
Absolutely. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes. Billy, one way we like to kick things off here with our Jersey guests. I'm pretty sure, I should say, I know the answer to this, but you never know. You did spend some time in the Ivy League, and we know how those Ivy League coaches think. Is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
I would say pork roll. I definitely was introduced to Taylor ham, as my first love. But the more I started eating it, it became pork roll. It didn't matter. I wasn't going to discriminate.
Yeah, that's what former guest Dave Santa Maria, CBA legend, said. He doesn't care what you call it, just make sure I get my sandwich.
Let me plug Dave Santa Maria. That's my physical therapist right there.
All right. Small world gets smaller every time we do this, right, Jim?
Yes, sir. Yes, it does.
So, Billy, we all have our origin stories to the sport, and I'm sure yours is probably a little bit similar to Jimmy's in the sense that he grew up coming to my matches, following me around in his singlet and tournaments and stuff. Your dad was involved in the program. He coached when I was back in the day when I was wrestling. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with your origin story, but give us a little bit more info on your origin story.
Yeah, my first real memories were going to the wrestling room for practice. And I don't know if you guys are ever in the old Gym 3, but, it was like a boiler room, but it was big enough. It had two mats and it was attached to a weight room. And there was a little coach's office. And I can remember my dad wrestling with a heavyweight and somebody going through the door of the coach's office, those guys wrestling into the office and then, back into the mats and then riding the bus and going to matches. Obviously those things were a lot more common back in the day. Kids just kind of always went along with their parents. And I was really blessed to have that opportunity from Long Branch Public Schools. So that was like 3.5 years old. I think 95, 96 was his last year as the head coach at LB. He was my absolute hero. And that is when I grow up, I'm going to be a wrestler and a football player at Long Branch. My dad was also the defensive coordinator and the head freshman coach. And when he became a principal, I started following him around and going everywhere. And I got introduced to, the whole short conference wrestling. But my Uncle Danny really, then he became my hero. And until he wasn't allowed to be Uncle Danny anymore, then he was Coach George. When I was in 8th grade, I graduated from Maple Place School in Oceanport. And I told my parents, Grandma said that I can move in with her and I can go wrestle and play football at Long Branch. And my parents were like, what? And yeah, that was it.
And so growing up in that environment and having such pride in Long Branch being a part of it, and then going on to Cornell, was coaching something that was always in your mindset, something that you knew you wanted to do, or how did that come about for you?
Yeah, about that time, I wanted to be like my dad. He was my hero. And then I wanted to be like my uncle. He was my hero. He was, the head football coach, head wrestling coach at Long Branch. And, I was 5 years old. I was a 55-pounder on the rec team. And I'm pretty sure I had to wrestle like Jimmy, Airey, Brian Heller, back to back, and I was like, I don't know if this is for me, I remember the kids on the team asking me, so how you doing with wrestling, little Billy? And I'm like, yeah, I made it to the second period my dad's like, yeah, he got pinned by Jimmy Airey. He got pinned by Brian Heller, and he's really bummed about it, really down on himself. But yeah, those were really life-changing moments, being with the team, starting on that rec team, all these guys who we're going to get into the family element of wave wrestling, but all these guys who ended up either being my teammates or being my coaches, or still around the community this day. It's what I wanted to do, always. Really cool. Blessed to have this opportunity.
Billy, in your defense, I probably had about 6 years on you at that
It was
point.
five. It was only 5.
All right, it was five. I remember that. I was like, I gotta wrestle this kid. He's young. And they're like, he's the same weight as you. You gotta wrestle him. And I saw Long Branch as, like Rich said, Miguel Ramos. I had to get one back for Rich. That's what my mindset was back then. But you said you wrestled for. He was Uncle Danny till he wasn't. Till he was your coach.
Yeah.
Did you and your uncle always see eye to eye? Did you ever have some times where you're like, man, I'm your nephew. Why you treat me like that?
Oh, I remember the first practice. I was a freshman in high school, and I was the only kid that wasn't on freshman football. I was on varsity football right away, and I was told I was going to play JV, and I called him Uncle Danny, just out of habit, and he was like, don't ever call me uncle again. And that was it. I've never called him Uncle Danny since. I called him Coach George. My son, William the Fifth, he's going to call him Coach George too.
William the Fifth, that's very royal. I like that.
Quint. My wife said, it's not going to be Billy or it's not going to be Bill. I'm like, okay, I got something up my sleeve.
All right. So taking over the program for your uncle, what was that like? You feel a lot of pressure in that?
I was really excited. You guys talked a little bit about how I was at Rumson, and I had 4 great years at Rumson Fairhaven. But the year before that, and I actually came home to school, I was a volunteer assistant at Long Branch. And all those years that I was at Rumson, practice for Rumson didn't start until 5 o'clock. So I was actually a volunteer at Long Branch. I was the JV coach. And I'd go to work as a real estate agent. I'd go to JV practice at Long Branch. And then I would go over to varsity practice at Rumson. So it was, and the Rumson kids will tell you, we would do off-season training, and it would be in the Long Branch wrestling room a lot of times. And so summer season training, it was always so near and dear. And it was always a thought in my mind. And actually, I knew I was going to be the head coach at Long Branch my last season at Rumson, Danny's or Coach George said to me,
You can call him Uncle on this show.
Coach George said to me that what's going on with COVID is so difficult. We're having trouble fielding a team. We have to totally rebuild, and you're the guy for the job. I've done my time here. It really stinks that it's going to go out like this, and I'm going to go out like this with COVID. And it was just a year before they had won a state sectional championship. They beat Brick Memorial in an awesome down to the wire, very last match, and but so I was all excited, and then Brian came to me at the banquet at Rumson, and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm telling the parents that I'm going to step away from Rumson, and I want you to know that I want you to be the head coach." So all of a sudden, I had this huge, decision to make. But it was, it goes back to those childhood memories, It's a dream, to live out, and you can see what an amazing job they're doing at Rumson. Coach is absolutely killing it. Should have been New Jersey Coach of the Year last year. They're #1 public school in the state, and back-to-back or 2 champions. They're doing a great job over there.
So we know you bleed green and white. There's a rich history that goes way back, even before I was wrestling, with some of the names that have come through Long Branch. I mean, what does it mean to be? You're not just a coach, but you're an ambassador for the community. And I know that's something that you and your dad and your uncle and everyone takes a lot of pride in. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, we have this great opportunity to give back. We've all had this great opportunity to give back. My uncle wrestled for Long Branch in the 80s. My dad wrestled for Long Branch in the 80s. They graduated, got their degree, came back, became educators, and their whole thing was coaching and teaching student athletes to be better people. And what better way to do that through sport? What better way to do that through wrestling, which is such a it's people call it the toughest sport to engage. It's such a humbling sport. And so as a wrestling coach, a lot of times we're getting some kids who are just, they are ready to be molded, and it takes such a commitment to become good, and the humility of going from the basics of just not getting pinned, absolutely being unacceptable. We're going to bridge in practice. It's going to be the most painful thing we're ever going to do. We're going to bridge until we stop getting pinned. And it's not like, oh yeah, you're going to be the hero. You're going to be all over social media. You're going to be champion. You're going to be on highlight tapes. It's like, no, like if you're getting in, if you want to be varsity, you want to be in that spotlight. The first step is not getting pinned. It's learning how to lose with pride and with class, representing the green wave, representing your family, and then teaching them how to grind out and win a tough match, and what it takes to have the poise to do that, the patience and the poise and the toughness and the chess element of it, and then how that translates to life. And a lot of the wrestlers, will work with outside of the school year, not with just wrestling, but my family, we have a long tradition of being lifeguards. I'm a lifeguard for the city of Long Branch. My uncle is the beach manager, so he's the chief of all the lifeguards and all the badges. And so these kids, they start wrestling in the middle school. We have an unbelievable middle school program who teaches them a lot of those fundamentals that they need to be successful at the high school level, obviously. We work with them at the beach. The training at the beach is awesome off-season training, surfing. I know I'm sure you have a lot of guests from Region 6, right, who are very passionate surfers, and they can talk about the translation. And people always said, wrestling Billy George, they'd say, people would tell me that, I asked somebody what makes you so good, and they said that you're just so strong, like, and you don't look like you are way stronger than you look. And I always used to say, well, that's because I'm a lifeguard and a surfer. It's, that endurance is just so. And then the last piece, in being an ambassador within my community, and it being about more than just wrestling and wave wrestling. Our motto is family. We say wave wrestling, we say family for life. Is football, and in football, I'm coaching the JV coach, and I'm a freshman coach, and to help these kids who may not have any connection to wrestling until they're in high school, and all of a sudden now they're connected with me, and I have that wrestling mentality, and they've never met anyone with that wrestling mentality. And like you guys know, there's levels to it, right? And the impact that can leave on somebody.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a 365-day thing of being the best influence on my community, and being front and center, and having to be a leader by example at all times, whether it's my job at the beach or my job at the school, or being a coach. Just being putting off that aura, like the kids say, right? That is going to breed success in the program, and for the kids in the classroom, and then in life. Like you guys said, the Ivy League thing, I get to take pride in that, and say, like, hey, I wasn't always the best student. It didn't come easy for me, but wrestling taught me how to become a great student.
Amen.
How to become a great teacher, an educator.
So,
are you working in the school now?
Yeah, I teach woodshop, 6th,
Nice.
8th grade. I've got a couple of 100 kids. A marking period, I get new ones at the end of middle school. Everyone, unless they are full year band or dance, they're in the band or dance program, then I won't have them. But if they're not band or dance, then I'm going to have them. So that's part of the philosophy of wave wrestling. It's just coaching every kid. It's like when you're a teacher and you're going to have every kid in the school, you're going to have every kid. They're going to, from every different background, walk of life. It's a really special thing, and then you can see everybody's talents, and then everybody has value and provides value. We've got some cool individual stories of some kids that go out on that mat for Long Branch, and the other team looks at him and they're like, "Who is this kid?" And he's wrestling against an all-state athlete, or an all-conference athlete, or all-division athlete. And, he would be the last kid picked for gym, but Long Branch ends up somehow finding a way to win the match. So,
yeah.
Billy, you mentioned that when Coach George said he was stepping down, it was rebuilding, that 2020 year really hurt you guys, and then you brought up having to teach kids to fight off their back. How has the rebuilding process, how has that been for you, and how is that teaching kids that have never wrestled before, knowing your caliber as a wrestler, having to kind of go back to basics and worry about not getting pinned?
it starts, it starts every year. We are a team that, if you look at our lineup, we're going to have about 6, 7, 8, 9. The kids say 6, 7. We're going to have, it's going to be a lot of our team is going to be seniors. They're going to graduate. Maybe they've wrestled, maybe they're a 4-year start. Maybe one of them's a 4-year starter. Maybe the other one, maybe you got another one who's going to be a 3-year starter, but most of them or about half of them, it's going to be their first year wrestling varsity, but they're full grown men. So to start the season, every season, we're going to have 60 kids who show up to the interest meeting. We've got a one mat wrestling room. There's about 25 to 29 spots safely. It's padded wall to wall. It's the hottest room in the school. We're going to have 2 practices, and the practices are going to be very similar. And at the beginning of the season, it might not be varsity in one room and junior varsity freshman in the other room. It might be 106 to 157 or 106 to 150, depending on how the kids break up. We're going to do some things that are going to turn you into a really good athlete. We're going to do like the Russians. We're going to do body weight lifts. We're going to do tumbling. We're going to do toe tag. We're going to do far foot drill. We're going to teach you how to scramble. We're going to see who really knows jiu-jitsu. I know a lot of you the Brazilian population, they tell me that they know jiu-jitsu and they give me some hand signs, and I'm like, all right, you're ready. Like, and then I'll flex my Portuguese a little bit because I've been known to be in the gym yelling another language. And yeah, so we're very much starting. And then guys, you've got to refocus me, but we're very much starting from building up the athleticism, figuring out the kids' strengths. We're gonna teach the inside step, and we're gonna teach it, and we're gonna pound it hard. Everybody's got to have a takedown to both sides. Everybody's got to be able to clear ties. The more we clear ties, the more we can learn how to hand fight by the end of the season. We're going to be hand fighting hard, and we're going to be moving people around and getting the shots. But early, we're going to be using our athletic ability. And like bring us back full circle. We can't get pinned. We got to be able to get out on bottom. But we're not always going to put the kids down early on. We're going to teach them how to use their athletic ability and be competitive. But the hard part is you've got this kid now, right? You're doing that, but you've also got this kid now who is ranked 4th in the state coming in this year, Tornik Kajaya. And, everybody would love Tornik Kajaya on their team. And you got, all this awesome club stuff going on. You got all this awesome private school stuff going on, and all these training partners, but you got to teach that kid to buy into fundamentals, continue to work the fundamentals, and working what these guys are working is also paying off for you. So, we do, we had to rebuild. We had to get the numbers. We had to get the numbers back to 60. It was being in the middle school it was kind of easy because I was able to put it out there. Coach George from the middle school, the wood shop, that's the science teacher at the time. And I build that rapport with the kids in the classroom first. But, really getting them, whipping them, helping, get them into shape. It takes a whole community, the parents and obviously my assistant coaches are extremely instrumental. And their value, you can't put a number on their value. But we feel like we do a lot of rebuilding every year. I always say, I'm going into the division, you look at the division now with the way they're set up, and it's like you could go 0-4. You could go 4-0. And I said that last year, seriously, even though I was returning 7 starters, and we were hoping we were going to be able to put a run together for a title. But those kids really, really, really bought in, and they had fun and competed, and we were 3-8.
Billy, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Do you have another thought? I don't want to cut you off.
No.
All right.
I could just go. You gotta cut me off. You gotta cut me off.
So you said you've been known to be on the side of the mat coaching in different languages, and we do
Yeah,
know Long Branch is a very diverse high school and very
yeah,
diverse community. But
yeah,
you also mentioned that the motto is family.
yep.
Talk about bringing in that the diversity of Long Branch and bringing everyone under one roof and making them all family.
That's actually the slogan of our current administration is juntos podemos, juntos nos podemos, juntos nos podemos, and that means together we can. And it's really just taking the time to get to know each other and understanding everybody's culture. You know, what do you like? What do you dislike? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite subject in school? All these like all about me, get to know me stuff and authentic learning and building authentic relationships. Not just me with the kids, but the kids with each other. And it's not easy for us to get a match. And I always say to all the coaches, I write so many emails. Every coach that ever puts out a date that matches us, I try, and very rarely has anybody actually shout out to Coach Soma from the Malpin. He actually reached out to me. It's like one of the first people ever to reach out and say, "Hey, Coach, we have these dates on our calendar." I think now people are starting to realize that we're gonna have some PowerPoints. But Coach Soma is a great coach, and it's people know that we're gonna, especially in January and February, like we're gonna build this team chemistry. The kids are gonna start fighting for each other. They're not gonna get pinned. We're gonna roll out 14 weight classes of tough kids. If you put somebody out here, put somebody out there, you have no idea who's coming out of the tunnel from Long Branch. You can look at the name, but it's, it doesn't really mean much. You can look at the record, but it doesn't really mean much because we're wrestling the best teams. We're,
What?
we're, we're always wrestling the best teams. We're taking whatever matches we can possibly get, and that normally means we're not supposed to win.
Yeah. With the divisions being what they are, we were B South for a while, even C South for a while, but that's all changed. What is your division looking like this year?
So we were always in B North, and
Hmm.
you want to talk about rivalries, and it's like Long Branch and Ocean, Long Branch and Raritan. Those were, going back forever in the definition of rivalries. Uh, you go to District 23 and the OG District 23, and I can't wait to hear your perspective on it. But you now we're talking Point Borough, we're talking Brick Memorial, we're talking Wall and Old Brick, and that district was just killer, and it's rivalries like what the short conference wrestling is founded on, like what got the short conference wrestling, what got Region 6 to a place where there needed to be realignment. Those are that's those are really the rivalries. So you look back on those and all those hard fought wars, and they're not in the division anymore. I believe our division this year, Middletown South. I know we've got them a little bit later in the schedule this year. I was pretty happy about Toms River South. Awesome team last year, state finalists. Middletown South again, awesome team last year, state semifinalists. They beat us in a dual meet at the beginning of the year last year. Toms River East, we had a great dual meet with them last year. Who was the state champ? Was it South or East? They had an awesome match. Came down to the end. I think
it was South.
South won. Coach Gianos is now at Brick Memorial. I know he just did a great job at East, and I know East will be up again this year. And then at the very end, it's Colts Neck, and we had the state sectional championship match against Colts Neck. And again, you want to talk rivalries. The matches between Long Branch and Colts Neck in the past, since I've been here, we wrestled in the division championship match. They beat us the next year. Then we wrestled them again in the state sectional final last year. And, you know, the match last year was just as competitive a match as I've coached in, and for it to be the state sectional final, you know, I was so proud of our kids, so proud of our kids. And I called coach the next day, Coach Janos.
Yes.
And I called him the next day. I know that short thing connection. And you know, I just said, you know, I'm just so impressed with your team. You do such a great job. And I know you can ask my wife, there was not much sleeping going on when the state seeds came out, and we had wrestled Jackson Memorial, the last match of the division. And then we were wrestling them again in the first round of the state. So
man.
Oh my God. So I don't even know what we started with, the division, right?
Yeah.
It's like I said, I'm going in, I'm thinking, are we going to be 4-0 or are we going to be 0-4? I don't know. And I always tell the kids, I don't care. I say it, you know, like truthfully, like what I care about is that all of you guys have the opportunity to go out there and compete, which means you do all the non-negotiable things, which is train. You know, that's not number one. We don't, you know, we always say that you know, I say the training, you know, because I'm on a wrestling podcast, but, you know, to the kids, as the head coach, it can never really be about the training. It's always got to be about showing up to school on time, getting all your schoolwork done, being respectful and polite to all your teachers. And there's a after school program that all the kids have to go to. Shout out to Mr. Corley, our athletic director, to make sure that the kids have extra enrichment. After school, they have a whole extra period that they are supposed to complete their homework with their teachers, their core teachers, before they even go to practice. So those are the non-negotiable things we talk about. Competing is just, it's just the gravy, you know, like of, hey, we did everything we're supposed to do, and now we get to go have an athletic contest. And, you know, then all the winning really comes from all the wanting to win comes from the kids, and then it's really authentic, right? Because it's like, man, I'm helping you do what you really want to do, because what I want to see you guys do is do all the right things in school, become the best people you can be, and then go out there and have this opportunity to compete and do all the things we practice. And you know, I hate to sound like a drone, you know, you hear this a lot, but it's, you know, to the parents out there, it really is the recipe for success. The kids having fun, the kids being the best people they can be, the best athletes they can be, and then going out there and competing loose, with no pressure. And that's that magic sauce, that perfect formula for how do we go from 3-8 to we're hosting the state sectional tournament.
Got you.
You got it.
Bill, you're a multi-sport coach. You're a multi-sport athlete. I was a multi-sport athlete. Jimmy was a multi-sport athlete for a little bit. We're big fans of that. As a wrestling coach, I always struggled to convince the football players, or even more so to convince the football coach, that, hey, if you get the bigger guys or even the linebackers to come out, I'm going to make them better football players. They're not going to get injured. I promise you. They're going to come back to you. They're going to be tougher. They're going to be better athletes. All that being said, you're a football coach now too. Are you able to kind of bridge that gap and get some of the big guys or some of the linebackers to come out and help the wrestling squad?
Yeah, you know, my uncle, Coach G, he was like, you need to start coaching football. And my dad was like, you know, you should be the freshman football coach. And wrestling commitment is so much. that, to also do with football, it's such a big, you know, uh, commitment for the family. But I volunteered for a little bit. This is my first year full-time on staff. And it's 100% to help the football program. It's not, hey, I'm going to coach football and then I'm going to get these guys to wrestle. But like I said, when people who haven't been around wrestlers and they start to understand the wrestling mentality, it's, I'm playing scout team quarterback and they're like, Coach G, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm 34 years old. And they're like, if you're this good now, how good were you in high school? And I laugh and I'm like, I like to think I'm better now. Yeah. But then they, and that's kind of like, they're like, I want to, I think I want to wrestle. And I say, it's not going to be a crazy commitment. You're not going to but you got to understand, you're not going to jump in and just be varsity right away. We're going to tailor your training. So you're going to come in, you're going to learn, you're going to become a better athlete. Then you're going to do tackling for a half hour, 40 minutes. Because, right, that's what neutral wrestling is. It's tackling. And we're going to teach you how to tackle. We're going to make it a little more technical, but we're going to teach you how to tackle. And then we're going to get you out of here. You're going to go run a mile, maybe 2. You're going to go do some sprints. We're going to bench, squat, power clean. You can do the core part of your football lift that you wouldn't be doing if you weren't wrestling. Some kids now, it's amazing. They have strength coaches and they're doing these really specific lifting routines, but do they really know what they're doing? Do they, you can tell them what to do, but do they understand why?
Right.
Do they understand why they're doing it? And when you're just bench squat power cleaning, it's really like, it's pretty simple. Like you make connections.
Billy, you talked a little bit about the realignment and about, Region 6 is no longer Region 6. I got a panicked phone call last Saturday night from my dad. Can you believe they realigned it again? Can you believe RBC's in District 32? What the heck?
I can't follow it. I'm really happy that I reeled off all the teams for the division. I did just look at the schedule the other day. I do the division in the spring. I try and do all my matches. I try and get all that stuff done in the spring. Sorry to cut you off, Jimmy, but it's really hard for me to follow and keep up with it. The districts, it's so important to wrestle a team in your districts, but when you're just getting it a week ago, right? You were just saying,
yeah.
I kind of already did my schedule.
What do you
have Jackson? We have Jackson on the schedule. They're going to be awesome this year. They're doing the coaches at both Memorial and Liberty are doing a great job, and they're going to come together and make a staff there. And it's going to be like when you guys were in school, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's that much. Again, the kids say, or I'm lacking a better word, but the mystique, of that Jackson Memorial program, that's what their aim is, right? To bring that back, and I wish them the best of luck because that original Region 6, I'm going into the Hall of Fame for Short Conference Coaches Association. I think it's weird. When we put us on that gym, we were a huge family, right? But there was so much bad blood, because everybody was competing, for only so many spots. And it just, as much as we try and make it all, just sport, like it's hard not to at times become personal, like I was telling the long range coaches, like I have nothing but good things to say about Coach Brady. I'm just going to bring up Coach Brady because you guys are Borough guys. And, but if you put me, if Brady walked in this door, it was just me and Brady in this room right now, there would be so much tension, you could probably chop it with a knife. It's real. It's a legit, tangible thing. And so the realignment, what do I think about it? I think we were trying to get rid of, I think it's a cheap parody that's what he wanted to do, right? I think it's achieved parity. I think the top 32 kids go to the state tournament. We're seeing it. We're having more kids from Long Branch go to the state tournament than ever before. And the kids from Long Branch are doing most of their training with us at the high school, during wrestling season or during the summer season where we have our summer league. And when we were in school, I know you guys wrestled probably 100 matches every offseason. I know I did. Kids aren't doing that. They're not. I know we're going to talk about where we're going from here. Where is Region 6 going from here? The greater scope of wrestling and all that. And this is just generally a Region 6 question, right?
Yeah.
It's sad that we're not all together. I do love, again, the Short Conference Coaches Association. I believe it's all the same organization, right? They do the Short Conference tournament. I think that's really cool. We don't have to go to the Beast of the East. We would love to go to the Robin Leff. Shout out to Coach Roy. But just we get to go to the Short Conference tournament, and we get to do the Elizabeth Minuteman tournament, and that's like a nice where all of our kids go, and they're going to have competitive matches no matter what their skill level. The Elizabeth tournament, and then the Short Conference tournament is like we're only going to have like 7 kids, like I said, because we're starting 7 seniors, right? And a lot of them don't have any credentials, so that part hurts, no doubt. The individual part, not everybody competing that weekend when you only, but the season is longer now. So in all fairness, the season is longer than ever. Having that short conference weekend and some of the kids being off and it being so close to state sectionals, it's like almost end of PowerPoints.
So you have to have qualifying points to get into the individual short conference?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's like the postseason criteria. How many points do you have? Have you earned up to that point? And the prestige points matter so much more because you still have a quarter of your season to wrestle. And like Long Branch at the beginning, we're just trying to figure out who should start. So we're wrestling multiple kids in a weight class. My uncle always said that, the weight class should earn the points because
right.
Having my kid eligible to wrestle that day combined with I'm trying to figure out who the guy is combined with we're wrestling against Colts Neck and they're 113 pounders, one of the best kids in the state. And, my guy might be at 20 that match. It's, the realignment achieved parity. There's no doubt about it. It's been a great thing from the standpoint. Look at how many wrestlers we have at the state tournament. Having everybody in that environment at a taco center is something I wish our kids could experience.
Yeah.
But truthfully, as the coach of Long Branch, Tornik Kajai is going to knock on wood. He's going to go to the state tournament senior. He's going to have a healthy senior year. He's going to be a 4-time state qualifier. He started wrestling as an 8th grader.
Wow.
Never. But it was happening in Region 5. No disrespect. And these other regions, South Plainfield, Coach Ashwell, shout out, like those guys, they had a legit pipeline, send the whole team to states and practice for a whole extra month. And the short conference kids were all killing each other.
Yeah. Does the short conference tournament have that same kind of electric feel to it, though? Jimmy and I have never been to individual short conference tournament. Does it still have that? And I guess, do you guys also miss the team aspect? Did you miss the team short conference tournament?
We had, when I was in school, like those are the best matches of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I lost to Glenn Carson 5-4. Long Branch versus Southern short conference tournament finals. I told my uncle that there was no way I wasn't going to get picked to bump me up to Glenn Carson. I just had never, like state finalist multiple times. And he was like, no, you're not. You're going up. It's the only way. You're starting the match up at 215. You're not waiting till the end of the match when it's over. Like you're going out there and you and Carson are going to start it off. It's a life-changing event for me. That team tournament was absolutely electric. And being in the locker room warm-ups with Jackson, Scotty Winston, and all those guys, and then actually winning the short conference tournament. Losing to Glenn Carson, but Long Branch beats Southern. It's like, Harry Turner, Howard, and Eckloff. Like that team was languid. It's said that the kids don't get that, for sure. But this and the thing that stinks about it was all the pressure and all the marbles of the Region 6 tournament. It was you had to get top 3. It was this one tournament you had to wrestle these kids in your bracket, and there was no I'm going to injury default out. There was no I'm going to sit this one out because it doesn't mean anything. Because these are lies that kids are told, and kids tell themselves and their parents and their coaches, and they miss out on those opportunities to have these life-changing moments. Like I keep saying, like my dad used to say, life is like wrestlebacks. Things are you're going to go out there and you're going to wrestle unless you're going to have surgery. Are you going to have surgery? No, you're not going to have surgery. Okay, then you're going to go out there and you're going to wrestle. You're going to go compete. And if you don't win, you don't win. It is what it is. It's not. That wasn't our day. But
Jim, I think we need to make Airey Bros shirts on the back. It says "Life is a wrestlebacks."
Absolutely.
That's the second time we've heard that on here.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point too about the injury default. If you're not getting surgery, you're going out on the mat. I had a match at the Penn State Open, and your friend and a friend of the Airey Bros, Brian Heller, was coaching me at that tournament.
so cool.
And it was for third place, and my eye was out to here, and I'm like, all the kids on my team at the school I was at, that was kind of the thing. Like, oh, if you're not going to win, did injury default out? And I told Brian's like, you getting ready? I'm like, nah, I'm not going to wrestle. And he was like, why? I was like, my eye, dude. He's like, you have to get surgery? Like, what's the deal? I'm like, no. He's like, you're going out there. And I went out there and I wound up winning. The kid wanted it less than I wanted it. But again, it's one of those moments where you go out and you wrestle, and we don't see that all the time. So I appreciate you bringing that up. One other thing we were talking about, the change in wrestling, the change in the regions and the conferences and everything. Another thing that's changing in New Jersey wrestling is the private school. And when we were coming up, there was maybe a handful of private schools that were really good, most were public schools. What is your opinion on the private versus public debate that's going on right now?
I love it. Like we talk about how we miss so many great rivalries, but these are the new rivalries. I talked about how I was saying to you, Long Branch has changed so much since the 70s. But one thing hasn't changed is that you put the kids in the super hot room. Maybe you're lucky enough to be able to blast some music, and we're going to go really hard, and it's just this culture that is wrestling. It's what makes it so great. And same with these rivalries. We miss the old ones, but the new ones now it's galvanized Long Branch and Point Borough, and Long Branch and Brick Memorial, and Long Branch and Delaware Valley. Like two opposite sides of the state, absolutely nothing in common. Long Branch and Phillipsburg, but Long Branch and North Hunterdon. We hate each other because we're wrestling for the state championship against each other. But now all of a sudden we're sitting in Atlantic City, and the private schools, you guys can just have that area that used to just be the competitors area, but now the girls are in there, and there's just so many private school kids that the high school, the public schools, we sit together. Raritan, we sit together off on the side, and it's very much us versus them. I'm not one of those coaches who will say like, and I've heard it from some of the top programs in the state of New Jersey. We're not going to wrestle any of the private schools. That's not how I am. We had a losing record a couple of years ago. If you looked at who we lost to, we lost the entire top 10 in the short conference. We had 13 losses, 10 of them went to the top 10, 11 schools. And, I'm friendly with Coach Gallagher. I'm friends with Billy Ashnall. I have nothing but good things to say about those guys. But I also want to beat those guys so badly. Like I want to beat those guys like more than I can breathe, and more than I want to breathe. And it's because the best competition brings out the best in us, So I love the private versus public debate. It is why is everybody talking about? Well, because it has that same feel, that same of the nostalgia of the OG short conference rivalry and the District 23 rivalry, the B North or the B South, except we're now on the same team, I think. I want it to be one state tournament. I don't want it to be public states, private states, who am I to say about the regions? If I would have voted, I would have said, no, leave it the way it is. It's great. And look how that turned out. Really benefited me. Really benefited us. And I think it's what was best for the kids. There's no doubt in my mind. The traveling sucks. The putting people who will never see each other again and don't know each other in the same gym is a little scary. I think that's a big reason about, what's happened with the incidents and the hate towards some schools. I think you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's because, I'll use your guys as the example, and it's just an example. It's made up. It has no truth to it. But I know the Areys. All right, Mr. Airey, he's a loud guy. All right, but really, I know he's a good guy and he means well. If my son doesn't beat Rich Airey or Jimmy Airey, we're not going to take it personally. We're not going to want to fight the Areys. We've known them since we were this big, and but when you don't know the people, I just think it's a little different.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's not that same respect or and when you bring in one of those private schools to your district and Long Branch, there's the way the numbers work. I've got it figured out that you should only have to wrestle against a private school in your district every 13 years. We wrestled against St. Peter's Prep 3 years ago. We were division champs. We didn't have a district champ for the first time in 10 years, let's call it. And now again, we have a private school. And again, I don't really follow, I can't really keep up. We got another private school in our district this year. So, 3 years later, 4 years later. And if you complain, you can get out of it. I'm not one to complain. I'm pretty sure if you complain, you can get out of it, but I'm not one to complain. But it's, you put St. Peter's Prep in Point Borough's gym, Point Borough hosts districts, and Point Borough's 7 best wrestlers go out there and wrestle against 7 of the top kids in the state. And if it doesn't work out, where Point Borough, one of their best kids doesn't win, and now the tradition of having a state champ for however many years is now done, or district champ, sorry, for however many years is now done because all of a sudden St. Peter's Prep is in your district. The people in the gym are going to be really mad about that. So like I said, I think it's worked out for the parity, no doubt. But some things maybe we should keep.
Yeah.
With people that know people.
Yeah. No, that's a good perspective. It's not something I never thought about it like that way. But that brings a very interesting point. And Coach Nucci broke it down, so we kind of swallowed the pill of, the reasoning behind the alignment and if it makes it better for Long Branch and other schools in the Shore Conference to have opportunities to get kids down at the state, we're all for that. But we're like you, we will cause a ruckus if they decide to ever separate it and make it more than one state champion, because I think there's only 2 or 3 states in the country now that still have one state champion.
It's so special, and there are those people who are going to want to do it for, like I wanted to do it for Long Branch. They're going to want to do it for their hometown, like the Airys want to do it for Point Borough, and that'll never change. I don't think that'll ever change. I know we've had some big transfers this year. Some kids you thought would never leave. You know, I'm going to leave it at that. But I still think somewhere deep down in there, there's going to be Long Branch kids who want to represent Long Branch. There's going to be Raritan kids who want to represent Raritan. There's going to be Memorial kids who want to wrestle for Memorial. And leave it at that.
All right.
Rich, you got anything else for Billy before we get in the Final Four?
I mean, we could talk all night about Shore Conference, Long Branch, Green Wave, one of the best mascots in the Shore Conference. So, but we want to be respectful. I hear there's a youngin in the background. Let's get him back to
There's
his
a
family.
young that's crying. I hope that didn't mess up. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. We've had everything on this show. You name it.
God bless my wife. We were, like I was telling you guys, we did tuna dinner. I was tuna fishing on Sunday. Thank God we got them quick. Thank God it was a morning bite. We could turn around and come on in for the 4 o'clock games, and then I went to football, and then I was cutting fish last night. And then tonight we were prepping the dinner. So my wife's hasn't been seeing much of me. She's really been Kayla Quint, and shout out to Liza. Thank you. Love you.
Happy wife, happy life. Let's get into the Final Four, Jim.
She knows. She came when we were dating. She went to Rumson Brick Memorial. She was like, that was crazy. I got a lot of questions. I'm like, well, now you know what you're in for. I think it was 27-27.
Oh, wow.
Down to the first ever Rumson state champ.
All right, Billy. First Final Four I got for you, sir. Are you a coffee drinker?
Oh, yeah.
How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
I drink coffee we brewed at home. We brewed in an old school pot. My wife gets Dunkin'. She's big on Dunkin', the grinds. And milk, whole milk, organic, grass-fed, whole milk. One of my training partner roommates, 125-pounder Cornell UPenn, and ODU, Caleb Richardson. He got me on the organic, grass-fed whole milk, and I've stuck with it. I put a lot of whole milk in. It's light, but I don't go too sweet with the sugars. If I'm lucky, I might take one when I'm out getting a coffee out. And it might make its way home, but normally no sugar.
All right, get down with that. You get down with Rook ever?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Rook. New Orleans style. I go pumpkin too. My wife goes, "What is this? This is a milk. This is a milkshake. This isn't a coffee. This is a milkshake."
Love it.
What about you guys?
Well, we're down in the South now, so it's pretty warm down here. So right now, I know Jimmy is. I'm on a cold brew kick.
Nice.
But I do full fat heavy cream.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm black. I drink the
Like a
Stumptown. Yeah,
I
I
know-
drink the Stumptown Nitro Cold Brew out of the can. At this point, I just need to get it in me as fast as I can and get on with my day.
I know down in Florida they love the shot, right? What is it?
Yeah.
So
Espresso,
a
yeah.
lot of people in Florida, because like you said, it's so hot down there. They don't want a whole hot coffee.
Yeah.
Just want a bone.
Yep. Billy, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Billy George?
I used to say, I don't lift weights. I just surf. That is my strength training. I'm, strictly surfing, fishing, and wrestling. But I'm kind of an intermittent faster. I wait. I'm a cheater because I have my coffee, right? But I am gonna go, and then boom, break that fast around midday. I love sandwiches, and then I'm gonna eat dinner. I'm not a snacker, um, but I do try and drink a bunch of water.
Right on.
Right in that coffee cup, it's got to be a water before it's a coffee. Then it's got to be a water immediately after. Um, so I can still play with the kids. So it keeps me young, wrestling as much as I can, playing scout team quarterback. I'm still the rabbit on the pursuit trail. And I'm like, how fast does that kid run the 100? I'm like, I ran I'm fibbing now. I'm like, I ran 11.7. They're like, he runs at 11.3.
Right on. Well, I feel you with the time restricted feeds. I am Rich will tell you I'm pretty anal when it comes to that. But
Well, that's how I remembered you is like you were like on the cutting edge when you were in high school of the diet and just being the best version of yourself. And that's why I looked up to you so much when you were at Short Thing and I was going short. The part of the reason why I looked up to you so much, I just knew that you were in incredible shape and you treated your body like it was a temple. And um,
well,
yeah,
I
I wanted to
appreciate.
be big for my weight class like you were. Let's just say that. I saw myself as long and lean, not like I wasn't poppy muscular like my dad and my uncle, and I knew I was gonna need a little funk roll or something. Um, and then at some point, then like they're like, you might be Coach Han used to call me the fastest white boy. He'd be like, you might be the fastest white boy at Cornell because we had Nashon Garrett.
Well, I appreciate that, Billy. That means a lot coming from you. Rich and I have always held your family in high regard, so the feeling is mutual. Billy, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
I love reading. I love anything Hemingway. I read a lot of his books. There's like a couple on the shelf though. Being a teacher, you get to see all these books that you were supposed to read in high school, right? And I made sure that all those books that I took the tests on, that I went back and really read again. Malcolm Gladwell, if I had to pick like an author who's like currently writing books, and if you haven't read anything Gladwell, he, he's awesome. He makes a story out of everything important in today's society. Um, Blink is one that really stood out to me. Everybody talks about Outliers, how that's such a great book for being successful. But Blink was one that really stood out to me, making snap judgments, how to make the best snap judgments. Music, I love music. In the wood shop, the music is going nonstop. In the wrestling room, the music is going nonstop. At my house, whenever I have to do any chores, right? It's music, and I listen to. I pride myself in saying like I'm a Renaissance man, and I like to, try everything and try and do everything and be well rounded. But one that I spoke to me last year with wrestling, rest in peace, Ozzy. Osborne, uh, Name and Blood. And if you got, I'm sure you guys know that one, but that was one we played a lot this past year. And, he says, my name is Lucifer, and we're not, no satanic worship, but, but, um, your love's got to be pure. And then you'll, understand how I'm going to feel. And put us through the roof a couple of times this year where we were like, well, we might have to take it back. We might have to take it back one step and make sure we're really locked in.
Cue the Bob Marley.
We listened, like I said, we're well-rounded. We listen to that too. We're coming in hot, hot, hot.
Nice. Billy, last one. Oh,
Shot. Shots.
Last one's the lighthearted one to close it out. Maybe it's there's a lot of great food in New Jersey. Maybe it's a food item. Maybe it's a beverage. A lot of wrestling coaches are golfers. I know you're an avid fisherman and a surfer. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Yeah, getting tubed feels so good. And like it is, the older you get, you do feel like it's like a selfish pursuit, or going out fishing all day and all the hours that go into it. But it's so primal, more music. I listen to, again, God rest Jimmy Buffett's soul. And Mother Ocean, I can hear you calling. um it's just it's just something that's like wrestling. There's just something in me. And growing up, my dad, again, running the beach club those years, and Miguel working for him down at the beach. And everybody was, it didn't matter. Like, if you went down that beach and you stared at the ocean for long enough, you wanted to go into the belly, whether it was out on that boat or it was, it was on the board. And I can't wait to, I love, that's what teaching is all about, is sharing those passions, that passion for learning, becoming a lifelong learner, sharing that passion of being a competitor, and that one-on-one aspect of wrestling. Is there's nothing like it. And it's so funny, the surfer connection and wave wrestling. We always talk about that, you know.
You ever get in the boat with your dad and row?
I've gotten in the boat with my dad. My dad has always felt like I was a bowman, and that he was a bowman, and he is a bowman. So we've actually never competed together, and we should probably just do it. And I think he's not at that point yet. Like, he's still at that point. I don't want to date him. I'm 34. All right. He's still at that point where he trains to be the best in the world. Period. Stop. And he says, when I can't be the best in the world, I'm done. When I can't be the best in the world, that's it. And that's, God bless my family, and all my mentor, all the mentors that I've had, and having that attitude of having the pride to just be the best. Jimmy brought up Rob Cole, and he used to say, if you're the best at whatever you do, you're going to make $1 million. You're going to make $1 million, because, whatever it is, if you're the best at it. And like I said, I was lucky enough, we'll get into both. I'm going to make sure that, obviously he took me rowing.
Yeah.
But we've never actually, we've raced against each other. And I try to stay as far away from him as I possibly can. Because believe me, I've seen, I don't know if you guys have seen, but
yeah, I've been down in Atlantic City for lifeguard nationals.
Rowing for my dad is a full contact sport. It's like football at Michigan State, or wrestling with his heavyweights. It was a full contact sport. It's like me coaching the football team now. It's like these kids are like, you don't have a helmet or shoulder pads on, and I'm like, neither did my dad. I don't think we need him.
Billy, sorry, Rich.
Go ahead, Jim.
I appreciate you bringing up surfing a couple times in this podcast, because Rich and I, growing up in Point Pleasant, I know Rich surfed a little, but I didn't surf at all. But we know that some of the best athletes that were walking the hallways in Point Borough were surfers and skaters. So I appreciate you bringing that aspect up during this podcast, because I think
Shout out Jordan Beverly. I love his dad, Jeff. Jordan was, the Point Borough superstar that we were in the same grade. We won senior nationals together. awesome memory. And Mr. Beverly's a legend. So,
He is a legend.
and
Shout out to Big Bevs.
and he came up to me after and gave me a huge hug and like, this is what we talk about Region 6, right? Him and Scotty were rival. He comes up to me, hugs me. Scotty Festero, teammate, state champion of mine. Shout out all my teammates. Nick Vizzacaro, Doug Cornell, Andrew Bolina. I could go on and on. Johnny and Buck and Sean Brown coaching with me still, and Mookie Bolina coaching with me, and Jazzy all coaching the middle school team. Again, just Coach D'Angelo's going. You just we're so blessed. My brother and Mr. Beverly came up to me and just said, being a national champion, man, Jordan's brother, Jeff, was state champion.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I told Jordan, being a national champion is way better than being a state champ. But, you grow up and you just, as we say, wrestlebacks for like life.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was beat Andrew Campantano. He was going to be he wasn't going to be the first four-timer if the second four-timer if I had something to say about it. And, not having that opportunity, but then having to get back out there and go get the next best thing, which is what I had already done, Freaking thank God I wanted to chase all those waves when I was little.
Amen.
My superpower, apparently.
Amen. Well, Billy, thank you so much for your time tonight, sir. This was a pleasure. After the season, when you guys bring home that state title, we got to get you back on because we only got the tip of the iceberg tonight. There's a bunch more stuff we want to talk to you about. So thank you so much for your time.
Guys. I know I go on and on. I got those focusing issues that I told the kids about, I tell the kids about, but I really appreciate you guys having me on. I've been following you. I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. Really appreciate what you're doing for the sport. You want to talk about me being an ambassador? There's no better ambassadors than the guys across the computer for me. So thank you so much for having me on. It's been an honor and an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Billy. We really do appreciate it. And like Jimmy said earlier, we do hold your family in high regard. So tell your dad and your uncle that the Airey Bros said hi. And
he just opened the door and he says hi.
So best of luck with the football team. Don't get hurt without the pads and the helmet. And have a great wrestling season. Like Jimmy said, we'll get you back on here sometime after wrestling season.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Have a great season. I look forward to hearing from you and following along all the great stuff you're doing on Airey Brothers Radio. Thanks again.
Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Billy George from Long Branch High School. Make sure you go check those links in the show notes. Go give the Green Wave wrestlers a little love. Tell them the Airey Bros sent you. That is all for us this week. We do appreciate you tuning in. We hope you have a great rest of your week and come back next week to join us. We will be back on Monday. We're going back to Point Pleasant Borough. Longtime friend of the Airey Bros, Brian Decker, head cross-country coach at Point Pleasant Borough High School, will be joining us on Monday night. And then another longtime friend of the podcast, Coach Bradley Souter, is going to be back from the University of Cumberland to talk about the cross-country season this fall. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.